So good afternoon.
Good
Today,
afternoon, Joseph.
good afternoon, Annabelle. Today's the 12th of February, and I have it's another joint interview with Planet Auto, but this time rather than Mr. Quirk, I have Mrs. Quirk. So Annabelle is there, obviously wearing the Planet Auto merchandise, and got more Planet Auto merchandise behind there. Um, we're going to be talking today about something that I don't think have ever talked about on this channel before. I know Annabella has talked a bit about this on the Planet Auto channel, but it's actually a very interesting topic, and I think one that a lot of you probably will actually enjoy. I know my audience on my channel, don't know what the Planet Auto audience is, but certainly on my channel, we're about 96% male viewers, which is fine. It doesn't really surprise me particularly, but there's a statistic that I read once that women influence about 70% of all car purchases, whether they're buying them for themselves or they're having as a joint decision. And certainly, when I was growing up, there were a lot of female presenters on Top Gear. Angela Rippon was one of the first in '77, and later on we had people like Michelle Newman, Janet Trewin, Vicky Butler Henderson, of course, would be the one that most people recognise. Kate Humble, quite a lot actually, and it sort of shows that not all people who buy cars are white men between the age of 25 and 40, which when you look at a lot of motoring programs and a lot of channels, you would think that those are the only people interested in cars, which is totally untrue. And often we look at the statistics of the top 10 best-selling cars in this country on the channel every month, and we see things like the Qashqai and the Ford Puma being quite high up in the charts. And I think those are cars that actually appeal very much to both sexes. They're not perhaps cars for a lot of the sort of enthusiasts for older cars would pick as daily transport on the channel. But certainly if you think about the amount of money that that sort of people have, and the sort of way that they have to have normal cars for normal duties, then we really can't ignore the role of what ladies would like, and a lot of ladies really do like cars, and Annabelle is of course one of them. Annabelle, what was your first car? Because it's not what somebody would expect. It's not like a Metro or a Fiesta.
No, my first car was a Porsche 924S, which my father left to me when he passed away. And even though originally my interest veered towards bikes for quite a long time, and I actually had my full bike license for a long time before I even learned to drive, I always loved cars. So my dad leaving me that car was so profound. Absolutely beautiful car. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to insure it at the time, and I did actually end up going on to get a more practical runabout in terms of a Honda Civic, my first ever Honda Civic. But it's something I'll never forget. It was a beautiful car, and he left it to me because he knew it was the right thing to do, and I loved that car. It was beautiful. And what can I say? It's Porsche for a start, so it has that kind of, it's got that reputation to it. It's a performance car. It's beautiful, but it's something you could also drive every day, which we did. It was, what can I say? It's Porsche. Yeah. And growing up, my dad had as many performance cars as he could get his hands on. My favorite of his being his Jensen FF Interceptor.
Jensen FF, lovely.
Yeah, and I was even at the small age of say like 5 or 6, I was helping wax the cars and making sure that they were retained. And
like in the Karate Kid, like in the Karate
wax, yeah, even though you're not supposed to wax on and wax off in circulations now, but at the time, yes, we did, and that stuck in my mind. It's what I grew up with: beautiful cars, not just for every day, but because they are things of beauty, and the performance and the way they make you feel. That was always there. Yeah. And for me, that's natural. So I kind of expect other women to have that. And if they don't, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, you know what it's like. It's not just automotive that you have this strange inequality in terms of what people see and what is the reality. Because as you say, with the statistic, they see that it's white males between a certain age, but you're right, there's so much more to it. And a lot of that is us ladies who love cars.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you then went on to have, I think, a succession of Civics, wasn't it? How many Civics have you had? It's quite a lot, isn't it?
4.
You've had 4.
Yeah.
Of course, now, like the sort of EG Civics, which are the sort of slightly early ones from what you've won, and one you have as well, which I can never remember if it's an EK or something like that.
It's an EJ. What we have now is the EJ.
I'm very bad on Civic chassis codes. I had real trouble when I did the EG4 on my channel. But those are sort of cult cars now, and I think actually they're there's quite a few ladies who actually quite like those, who drive the modified ones as well. And they're
I wanted a Type R.
Price, aren't they? Those cars.
Yeah,
really
I originally, I wanted a Type R, but I couldn't find one for love nor money.
Yeah.
And I remember the second one that I had, I ended up literally rolling around on my hands and knees and back in the middle of a hospital car park because I knew I wanted one and I couldn't find one, and spotted it in literally the hospital car park, and it was in beautiful condition. And I was like, there's got to be something wrong with it for it to be on sale, and it had to do with the sign on it saying must go. So I was like, is there something wrong with it? Hence the rolling around. As it wasn't anything to do with that. It was 2 Chinese students that were going back, and they needed to offload the car quickly because they were leaving in 3 days. And I was so lucky to get it. And we were on campus sorting it out. And at the time, we were just finishing the negotiations for it. And 3 other people were coming up saying, we want to buy the car. And I was like, sorry, no, you're too late. I've got it now. And I was lucky to get it. And at the time, there were just no other ones, not for sale. I mean, I'd seen a few, but they were just not for sale because they are great cars.
Yeah. I mean, I'd really like to try one of those at some point. I'm sort of, got a list of things I'd like to do, and that's definitely one of them. You say you have the 924. I don't want to sort of give away, a lady's age, because that's not very polite. But
that will not be happening.
Whenabouts was it you had that? Because I know now 924s are really, really expensive.
Yes, very.
Would it have been about 2003, 2004, something like that?
Well, 2003 is when my father passed away. So yes, I had it between 2003 and 2005. Yeah. And then I had to move back to a different part of Leeds where I was at the time. And it wasn't practical to keep it. And to this day, I really wish I'd still been able to keep hold of it. But I had it for a while. It was absolutely lovely. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, it's so funny with things like the 924, because when Wheeler Dealers did a 924, also in 2003, they did one of those, and it was quite a rough one. It was a base model. I think it was an 82 or something like that, and they paid, I think, £500 for this. Obviously, yours is probably a bit nicer than the one that they did, but they were much more affordable back then. Much more affordable. Yeah. I mean, now they're out of the reach of most people who would be young now, wouldn't they? They're quite out of the reach, but they were much more affordable back then.
What I would love to do at some point, but I don't even think it would ever be possible, is to track down my dad's Jensen. It's in Germany. It's a different colour. But it would be lovely to get my hands on that. But that's a pipe dream. But I think everyone should have those. So, mind you, my bucket list for cars, I shouldn't really add to it because it's already long enough as it is. So I need way more garage space for that.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody wants a sort of big garage to keep all their cars in, don't they? So let's go back to the sort of beginning of when Planet Auto started, because I know originally when it did, which was a few years ago now, it really was just Ben and Michael and their thing, wasn't it?
Actually, no. Originally, it started not too long before Ben and I met. Ben created Planet Auto as a website in 2005.
Oh yeah, the old Planet Auto, yes, that, of course.
Yeah, the origins of it. And when he and I met at the very beginning of 2006, I helped him out in terms of articles for the website at points as well, just in the background. And it kind of potted on and evolved. But you're right, in terms of the YouTube channel, which we all know and love, that actually came about from the end of 2016, where he and Michael put their heads together, and it was to revamp the format and put a lot of effort into creating quality video reviews for the channel and making it grow. So that was then instigated at the beginning of 2017. Ideally, it was a case of those two were the face. They were going to create the brand in terms of where they wanted to take it. So I was there in the background to help with logistics. At the time, I was working on a freelance basis for London Business School because my other background is program and event management.
Yeah.
So in terms of logistics and that kind of thing, that's my ballpark. So I'd help out, make sure things were booked, kept things diarised in calendars, kept them all on track, and that was it. And it was fun. And then, of course, if there were events and things to go to, I would then join that because, of course, going to a car show, going to events, it's just so much fun. I mean, I know it's work, but when you enjoy work that much, it's a win-win. So I would program manage, and then I'd do some of that as well. So it was, for me, it was great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think a lot of people realise, particularly with Planet Auto, which is a channel that's very heavily focused on getting the latest model of cars, how much work it is to contact all these manufacturers, because the cars don't come from dealerships on the whole at all.
Nope,
they do go around to your local SsangYong dealer and say, "Can I have a car?" I mean, I tend to work with dealers a bit more because of the way that we film. But in terms of the way that you sort of work, we have the car for a week and you have another one and possibly two at once and things like that. The easiest way to do it is for the manufacturer to deliver you one so that you can just get on with it and have a nice period of time and do as thorough a job as possible. And I don't think a lot of people realise just how much work goes into that. And even if you're not appearing yourself on the channel or editing or anything, there's a lot of work involved, isn't there?
Well, just to give you an idea, especially because at points we've been quite young and small in terms of looking in the scheme of other people and other places that do this. It took me personally 2 years of contact, negotiation, talking over, recontact, negotiation, working things over to book in our first Ford. 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's just how it was. We had to keep growing, keep reviewing, keep pushing the envelope in case of what we want, in terms of what we wanted to do, in terms of honing the craft, getting better at it. 2 years. At points it's just not easy, and
no,
but it's worth it, and you do it anyway because why not? Because when you finally do get that, and it's a brand, yes, we love all brands, and especially with Planet Auto. It's called Planet Auto because it is to do with the world of cars, or the world of automotive. Everyone has their favorites, and you look at the ones that you really would love to review. So it's always such a really great thrill when you can finally do that. So any effort that you put in is worth it.
Yeah. And I think we've touched on my channel actually quite recently, but certain brands are more difficult to get hold of than others, and certain ones have different stipulations from others. So when you don't see a certain manufacturer on, say, Planet Auto, there probably are sort of just different things behind it. They have different criteria, and that's fine. That's up to them.
I agree.
But I know that for both of us, actually working with the brands we work with, I've worked with Suzuki and MG, both of the president offices. Those are the ones that I've worked with, and actually they're pretty nice to deal with. But trying to do a going in cold to any manufacturer is a bit of a challenge, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because how do you break that open? They must get dozens and dozens of calls like this every day. That brings in mind like one of the conversations I had with Ferrari, and he was quite honest, and he pretty much said exactly that. He said not dozens but hundreds of points. He said it's Ferrari, we get calls like this all the time. And he was honest. He said at the moment it's not meeting the criteria. He said, but I like what you're doing, keep doing it. He said, I'm sure we'll get there one day. I said, well, that's the plan. So he and I regularly keep in touch.
Yeah, it's a lot of sort of work and things. And I know as well, actually, the way that you actually first lent your voice to Planet Auto, quite literally, was an accident, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Tell us
Happy
about
accident.
what happened.
It was a case of Ben and Michael had been very busy and they filmed quite a lot of content. And I think it was just a genuine mistake. They forgot to film the final verdict for one of the models.
Yeah, but just totally forgot. I mean, I've done that myself. Yeah, we had to sort of do on the 2020 Sanyong Tivoli. We just hadn't filmed the end. We just totally forgot, and we actually had to improvise to actually do it. And I knew actually from the experience that you had that it was possible to fix it. But how did you actually go about by fixing what the mistake that Ben and Michael had made?
Well, at this point, what you have to remember is the manufacturer's vehicle had gone back to the press feed.
Yes, it's gone.
It's gone. So we're like, can't take it back out and do it again, because, or even do it first time, because we don't have it anymore. So what are we going to do? And I think it was Ben actually who just went, we need to put something together. Why don't we? Yeah, I do believe it was Ben's idea to do a voiceover. And Ben being Ben, he never forgets anything like this. He remembered that I have a background in voice work in terms of I used to do I used to take part in debates, in live speeches. I have a lot of speech and elocution training from a very young age, so it's something I can easily pick up and do. I also work a lot in radio and student radio, so I was like, well, let's draft something out and I'll record it. And it was the quickest way to actually get it done. He then edited it on and put the voiceover with a collection of shots of the vehicle, which at that point we had plenty, we just didn't have the final verdict. And it worked. It worked actually really, really well. So that was my first step into actually becoming a part of the review process. So I was quite happy with that. It was nice. And it worked. So we carried on doing it, one of those if it ain't broken, fix it type things. So we incorporated it into our reviewing style, which we always look at on a regular basis anyway, to see if it needs to be updated, if anything's not working, do we need to tweak it? So we just kind of ran with it after that. And from that point on, the final verdicts were done by voiceover.
Yeah, and I know that actually you also introduced the videos as well, don't you? You do the bit right at the beginning and at the end, and I think it gives a very professional quality to the reviews, and it makes the sort of the things sort of stand out a little bit. And it's always the way with these little happy accidents that actually sometimes it becomes actually something that adds a little something to it, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's why I called it a happy accident, because from that moment, the panic actually came a step forward, which, as you say, raised our game a little. So I was all for it.
Yeah.
So we kind of took it and ran with it, really.
And then a little bit later on, when Michael sadly had to step down from doing the videos things with you, you've now very much become a part of it, to the extent that I know you edit a lot of the reviews. I don't think a lot of the viewers on Planet Auto realise that actually there are some that you've edited yourself entirely. You present them and you film the videos as well. You actually sort of handle the sort of the very lovely gimbal that you have of the DSLR, which is an impressive piece of kit, because I've actually used it, and once you get used to it, it's brilliant, isn't it? So you actually do that yourself, don't you?
In terms of what we do now, Planet Auto, it's Ben and I, we're 50-50.
Yeah.
In terms of the fact that I'm a heck of a lot shorter and not as strong as he is, I do as much as I physically can. And same with the editing and all of it. He does more of the driving. Yes, that has changed recently, which is nice. But I have good days, bad days in terms of some of the mobility challenges that I have.
Of course.
But the rest of it, no, it's completely 50-50. So there was no hesitation when Michael stepped away. I didn't even think, really. It was like, okay, well, I'll do it. I don't even think Ben even got around even opening his mouth to ask.
To
say, oh, it was literally just right. It just felt right at the time. And again, like the happy accident with the final verdict, maybe it was natural evolution. I don't know. It was just the right thing to do. It felt right. And I think it's worked. And I've had a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah. It's not what I planned.
No.
sometimes it happens that way, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, in terms of, as I said, steep learning curve in terms of learning how to video it. But I had a good teacher. I said that. So yeah, I learned it quickly and got on with it. And it's something I do every day because, of course, especially during lockdown, it's been challenging for everybody.
Absolutely.
So we have to make sure that we do our best to bring quality content to the channel. So putting videos out and as much content as we can find, it's something Ben and I work on every day.
Yeah. And I think as well, one of the unique things about Planet Auto, I certainly haven't seen this on most other channels, is that because of the mobility and health challenges that you have, and that's something obviously we don't dwell upon too much, but that's just the reality of what it is.
Yeah.
There are times when you've done sort of mobility sections of reviews or just little videos about them, and I think some of the cars, I mean, the 508SW was quite difficult, wasn't it? That was a hard one to get in and out of. But I know some of the trucks in particular are a bit easier, aren't they?
Yes, but also at points difficult, because whether on one side it's easier for me to get in and out of it, especially with steps, but it's not easy for me to film.
Yeah.
So we have to look at it in terms of that kind of challenge. And I think the last pickup we did, we actually swapped it around, because originally I was going to do the exterior and film the interior, but we had to swap it because I physically couldn't film the interior. There was absolutely no way I could do it.
Sure.
So we just flip it about. And what we do is, and Ben's actually really helpful with this, because I can be a bit rubbish about pacing myself. We break it down so that I don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if I'm really enjoying it, I want to carry on, but he's like, well, you're going to pay for it if you do. So I have to then stop and make sure I take a break. But you're right, it's good days, bad days, good hours, bad hours, actually. So it's just one of those things, I think.
It's like anything in sort of life, and trying to sort of pace it properly, but sometimes it's not the way that it works in a world of automotive journalism. Sometimes, as I know, September 2019 was insane. And I think you went through at least 4 cars, and you're going all over the country to do these sort of shows. And I was very privileged to be with you for quite a lot of them. I think there were so many, and you also were trying to do your other job as well, weren't you, at the time? So there are periods where the content comes really fast, and periods like the last few months where it doesn't.
Yeah, and you're like, how am I going to balance that out? Because of course then you get a glut, and it's again trying to pace yourself to make sure that you can do it safely but enjoyably as well. Because I'm a very firm believer that if you're not enjoying what you're doing, go and find something else that you do, because life's too short.
Yeah, exactly. I know as well that you've been in touch with a number of press departments over the course of the last couple of weeks, and actually you've got quite a lot of new cars coming. I'm not going to give anything away, but
stay tuned.
Exactly, which is really exciting. It's I've seen that certain other channels are also getting them, and that's one of the only ways you can get cars at the moment. You can either have a relationship with a second-hand dealership, or some franchise ones don't tend to do this, but the second-hand ones often will let someone on their own come and film and wipe the car down and sort of whatever. That's one way of getting them. Filming cars that belong to individuals is virtually impossible at the moment, which is why I'm not really doing any reviews, because it's just a little bit more difficult in that point of view. But also the manufacturers, they're just being, in a very safe way, they are delivering cars to people. Obviously, once they've had a negative COVID test, I think, or something, or not showing symptoms, it's all very, very much by the book in that way. But they are
been really good. Yeah,
they're still trying to provide content for people, and trying to, when people are ready to buy cars. I know the new car sales in particular are down by 39.5% over 2020 in January. So they obviously do still want people to think about buying them when they can, and you can still do click and collect in a lot of ways. But it's good to see actually that, from your point of view, that you are able to get it done, although I think it will be quite intense, like it always used to be.
It's also going to be quite hard, because
it's
going to be a shock system to get back into it.
Yeah.
But it's with anything, you can get used to anything really if you want to and you need to. I'm just going to have to make sure I pace myself. And also, it's nice that we're starting to come in towards spring. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's today because it's bitterly
really cold, yeah.
But knowing that we're heading towards that just makes it a little bit easier. You get a little bit more daylight. It starts to get warmer, and that in itself is just enough to perk a lot of people up. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and also I know that I think the final show that I attended before lockdown started in 2020 was the Autosport International of Birmingham, which I was very privileged to have been invited to be part of it by you, and also I did actually appear in some of the video to do with the Musso Saracen that you had because I was there, and I'm hoping that actually this year we will be able to do some more of that again. We only actually managed that ourselves once in the entire year after that, and when we came up to do some other stuff in the area too, and I'm hoping that actually the shows will come together in in earnest. I'm hoping that we'll be able to travel again, because that was the reality of it for
Good evening,
Planet
all.
Auto for ages. Oh, is that Mr. Quirk? Hello, sir.
Yeah. He tried to photobomb, but he got it wrong.
I got a little bit of shoulder here. I saw a little bit of shoulder.
Good evening, all.
Thank you, Mr. Quirk. But that was the reality of it for both of you, wasn't it? For a couple of years, is that you were getting these press cars to film and do reviews on, but also they were very useful for getting down to the shows. And so you were sort of doing road trips all the time, weren't you, for a couple of years, which I'm sure was very exciting when it happened, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's fun. We're going all over the place. And the thing is, what better way of testing the capabilities of the car but than by putting it to test in a road trip and taking it somewhere. And two of our favorites that we've done have been MGs, actually, with the ZSEV, which we road tripped back from Goodwood all the way up to the Lake District to check and count to see what the range was in terms of mitigating the range anxiety. And then the 5, which we literally took over the peaks to see what that was like, and it was fantastic. It's everything we threw at that.
I was surprised actually how good that car was. I was surprised that you put that in sport mode. The acceleration was absolutely brutal, and you could the problem with an electric car is because you get all that torque so quickly, it will eat for front tires. If you obviously own one, if you drive like that, it will eat the front tires up.
It will do.
Most people obviously would turn it down a bit, and I tend to drive an eco or something and turn a regen up to mitigate that. But yes, it was very impressive the way it handled the rhinos and hard not passes.
That's the one. And of course, with the the ZSEV, you were there. You featured that as well because I remember. I attended the launch together, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. The launch in Malibon in July 2019 was a huge boost to channel. Ironically, I had an MG3 press car that week as well. It was totally unrelated, but I had it. I didn't take it into London because I lived just outside of London for ages, just over 10 years. I lived on the outskirts. I knew I wouldn't be driving it in, but it was a really good car for driving around the city. I mean, I don't think we exceeded 30 miles per hour at any stage during the journey. We were out for, I think, over an hour going on this route that they pre-programmed, and just not having to worry about gears and torque curves and everything like that, and having the extra safety features like the blind spot monitoring and everything like that was just fantastic, wasn't it? It was a brilliant car, and a day that I don't think I'll forget. And then suddenly I filmed the walk around of the car just on my phone. I didn't even edit it or anything. I stuck it up the following morning, and that's the most popular video on my entire channel. And they are fantastic cars, and I'm very happy to sort of being able to be part of it. And still to this day, I'm trying to think about what my favorite electric car is, and I cannot honestly decide between a 5 and a ZSEV. I can't decide.
It's hard, isn't it?
So close, because they're about the same price, although the deals on the ZSEV are a little bit better at the moment because the car's been out longer. But one's got larger range, one's got more features, one looks a certain way, one looks another way. It's not it's not a particularly simple
It's
decision,
not an
is
easy
it?
job, is it? No.
No.
Personally, I would wait for the next facelift models to see, and then look at making a decision. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Well, I think we've probably come to the end of our time, I'm afraid, Annabelle.
All good. Thank you.
You know, it's good to sort of reminisce about some of these times, and also to to find out a bit more about your car history of Planet Auto, and how it is to be a lady with on these channels which get a primarily sort of in male audience. I think it's just interesting to see a bit of that world, really.
Well, thank you very much. I very much enjoyed talking to you, and stay safe and stay well.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I'm sure we'll catch up and talk more about cars at another time.
Yes, it's inevitable, isn't it? Really. So don't forget to
Yes.
subscribe to Planet Auto. Particularly, they've got all these new cars coming very soon. And I'll put a link to the channel obviously in the video description. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below, and obviously if you want to subscribe to Lloyd Vehicle Consulting as well, be very grateful. Make sure you turn the notifications on, yes, be informed of future content. But for both of us, I think it's goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.